Before the wedding cake was cut, her mother walked up to me and whispered, "Your parents don't belong here." I smiled and said, "Perfect, neither do you." That's when I realized this wasn't a wedding. It was a setup. I didn't expect the war to start before the wedding cake was even cut. There I was, standing under that ridiculous canopy her mother insisted on, an overpriced monument draped in imported ivory silk like we were royalty instead of two people about to get conned by love. My palms weren't sweating because I was nervous to marry Brittany. I thought I was ready for her. It was her mother, Deborah, that had me tense. Deborah had those eyes, polished, smiling, sharp. The kind that look at your life like a business deal they can flip for profit. She strutted toward me like she was walking a red carpet, diamonds flashing like warning signs, lips stretched into that surgically perfected grin. She leaned in close enough for me to smell her expensive lavender perfume, and something colder underneath it. Then she dropped the grenade with a smile. "Your parents don't belong at this wedding. I already invited my friends to take their seats." Boom. No shame. Like my family was something dirty she was politely sweeping under a Persian rug. I stared at her for half a second, stunned for half a breath but only half. Then I smiled. "Perfect," I said. "Neither do you." Her expression cracked like glass. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't a wedding. It was a battlefield. Brittany was across the lawn laughing with her bridesmaids, oblivious, or pretending to be. That was her specialty. Ignoring the fire while it crawled through the floorboards. She'd been off for weeks. Cold, distant, secretive. That kind of silence that isn't stress. It's lies. And Deborah's little stunt? That wasn't just manipulation. It was a warning shot. I walked away without another word. Deborah stood there frozen, clutching her wine glass like it was the only thing keeping her from shattering. My best man Logan met me halfway to the house. "What the hell was that?" he asked, eyes wide. I didn't answer. Not yet. Because something else was boiling under the surface, and I needed to see it through. The rehearsal dinner was where it really began. Logan pulled me aside that night, voice low and serious. "Man, I don't know how to tell you this, but I think your girl is hiding something." I laughed at first, shook my head, thought he was messing with me. Then he showed me the screenshots. Text messages. Brittany and a guy named Chase. "Last night was insane. I can still feel your hands. You make me feel alive." I needed that. "Can't wait till next time. We just have to be careful. You can't know." It felt like being punched in the lungs. I stared at the screen, numb. My fiancée, the woman who had given me a monogram pocket watch that morning, engraved with "Forever Yours," was sending that to another man days before our wedding. "Who is Chase?" I whispered. Logan swallowed. "I don't know. But I've seen him around her apartment building." And suddenly every moment I brushed off snapped into place like a trap closing. Late night errands. Showering the second she got home. The phone always face down. The girls' nights, that came with lipstick and excuses. I wasn't marrying the love of my life. I was marrying a lie. But I didn't explode. Not yet. Because now I had a plan. I didn't sleep that night. Brittany lay beside me wrapped in silk and secrets, breathing soft like she was proud of herself for fooling me, like I didn't already know. Before dawn, I poured myself a whiskey and sat on the back porch while the sun rose on what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. Instead, I was planning the cleanest truth bomb she'd ever experience. No screaming. No begging. No meltdown. Just exposure. Cold. Calm. Surgical. I called Logan and told him what I needed. He didn't hesitate. "She deserves it," he said. "Both of them do." By the time guests started arriving at the venue outside Charleston, this fancy waterfront estate on Wadmalaw Island that cost more than my first car, I'd already handed the photographer a flash drive. What was on it would change everything. The vows hadn't even started yet. But the war had. Brittany stood there glowing in her custom designer gown, surrounded by bridesmaids who looked like they crawled out of an influencer's Pinterest board. She caught my eye and waved, that fake little wave she used whenever she wanted to distract me from asking questions. I gave her a thumbs up. She had no idea. Guests settled into their seats. My parents were confused about why their seats were suddenly moved to the back row, but they still smiled politely. Deborah had made sure they were practically in the parking lot. That was fine. That was part of it now. The music swelled. The officiant cleared his throat. "And now we gather here today." That's when the giant screen flickered to life. That screen was supposed to show childhood photos. Family memories. Cute moments. Started that way. Me as a toddler. Brittany as a kid with braces. Our awkward prom photo. Then came the first image that didn't belong. A blurry shot of Brittany, hair tied back, wrapped in a man's arms. The dress was the same one she claimed she wore to a girl's brunch. Then a selfie, his hand on her thigh in the front seat of a car. Then the text. All of them. One by one. Bold white font against a black background. Last night was insane. I can still feel your hands. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone dropped a glass. A bridesmaid covered her mouth. Brittany spun around, staring at the screen like it was a nightmare. Her eyes shot to me. I didn't flinch. I stood there with my hands calmly folded, looking at her like I'd never met her in my life. She stormed up the aisle, veil whipping behind her. "What is this, Jason?" she hissed, voice shaking. "You did this? You humiliated me." I didn't move. I didn't blink. She whirled to the crowd, desperate. "He's obsessed. He's crazy. This isn't what it looks like." And that's when Chase appeared. Late, sweating, wrinkled shirt, trying to slip into the ceremony like a background extra. Perfect timing. Every head turned. Brittany froze. I finally spoke. "All good. You're here." I nodded toward him. Now she doesn't have to sneak around anymore. Brittany's face crumbled in real time. "It didn't mean anything," she shouted. "It was just a fling." 3 months of messages, I said quietly. "That's not a fling. That's a double life." She slapped me. I barely felt it. All the pain had drained out of me overnight. Now I was just empty. Deborah stormed toward me, furious. "You ruined this entire wedding. Do you know how much money, how many hours?" "I didn't ruin anything," I said. "Brittany did." Then I turned to the guests. "You all came to witness a wedding. What you're witnessing is the end of a lie." I looked back at Brittany. "I wanted forever. I would have given it to you. But you wanted options and you chose him." I stepped back. "The venue is paid. The food is still coming. The bar is open." I glanced at the crowd. "I suggest you enjoy the party." Then I looked at Brittany one last time. "The bride and I won't be staying." And I walked down the aisle, past stunned faces, out into sunlight that didn't feel poisoned anymore. Logan met me at the edge of the lawn. "Didn't think you'd actually do it," he muttered. Neither did she. Behind me I heard chaos erupt. Screaming, shouting, Brittany wailing, Deborah demanding to know who gave me the flash drive. I didn't look back. I was already free. The hotel suite that night was too quiet. The kind of silence that feels like the world is holding its breath. I dropped the tux jacket onto the floor, loosened my tie and stared at myself in the mirror. I looked calm. Too calm. Like someone watching the end credits of a horror movie they didn't realize they were starring in. My phone buzzed. Call from Brittany. Declined. Call from Deborah. Declined harder. Then came the messages. "Please. You don't understand. Let me explain. It's not what you think. Chase means nothing to me." Then a text from Chase. "I didn't know she was still with you. She said you two were basically done." "I'm sorry." I tossed the phone on the bed. Their excuses were all the same. Weak. Rehearsed. Predictable. Brittany lied with the confidence of someone who's done it 100 times. The way she looked me in the eye the day before and said, "I can't wait to be your wife." The way she leaned her head on my shoulder like she wasn't already betraying me in someone else's arms. She wasn't just a liar. She was dangerous. The kind of woman who could burn your life down and then blame you for buying the gasoline. I didn't sleep. Morning came like a slap of light. I showered, dressed, packed everything and left the suite key on the nightstand. By the time I walked outside, I already knew where I was going. I drove 3 hours to my parents' place outside Greenville, South Carolina, past the noise, past the headlines, past the mess. They didn't ask questions. They just hugged me. My dad poured coffee. My mom cried quietly while pretending not to. And I finally let the tears come when no one was watching. Not because I missed her, but because I hated that part of me still did. The days after were blurry. Friends texted. Some furious. Some shocked. A few had the nerve to ask if it was staged. Like I'd humiliate myself for attention. Like pain was performance. Then came the final knife. Brittany posted a statement online. A perfectly filtered photo of her in a white robe holding coffee, smiling like peace. Caption: "Sometimes the truth is complicated. I've learned a lot about love and forgiveness this week. Growth isn't always easy, but it's necessary." Thousands of likes. Comments like, "You're so strong, queen. Don't let the haters bring you down. Men can't handle a real woman." It felt like the whole world was clapping for her, for stabbing me in the back. That's when I realized, this wasn't just betrayal. It was strategy. She wanted sympathy. She wanted to rewrite the narrative into something cute and shareable. So I kept everything. Every text. Every photo. Every timestamp. Every receipt. Because I wasn't done. Not yet. I called a friend of mine, an attorney named Ethan Pierce. Sharp mind, sharper memory. The kind of man who never forgets a lie. I showed him everything. When I finished, he leaned back and said one question. You ready to end this? Divorce papers were filed before she could even spin another story. No spousal support. No joint accounts. No, we'll work it out. I didn't want revenge. I wanted freedom. She didn't take it well. When she got served, she called 13 times. I picked up on the 14th. You can't be serious, she said, voice shaking. I'm done, I said. You're not even going to talk to me first? I laughed. You threw it away when you started living two lives. I'm just cleaning up the mess. She went quiet. Then she hissed, you won't get sympathy from anyone. You humiliated me. That's the thing, I said calmly. You were never trying to marry me. I paused. You were trying to replace me. She hung up. Deborah emailed next. Subject line, a final appeal. 3 paragraphs of manipulation. She blamed passion. She blamed me. She even blamed my parents' seating. I forwarded it to Ethan. If she contacts me again, I said, file a restraining order. Then I blocked them both. Cutting them off felt like sawing off a dead limb. Painful. But necessary to live. I started over slowly. Moved back into my old condo. Boxed Brittany's things and dropped them at her sister's place. Logan helped repaint the walls. We stripped photos down, donated furniture, played old music too loud, and laughed just enough to remember I was still alive. I wasn't distracting myself. I was rebuilding myself. Then one night at 2 a.m. I got a knock at my door. I knew who it was before I checked. Brittany stood there in sweatpants and a hoodie. Mascara smeared, eyes red. The confident, calculating version of her was gone. This woman looked broken. I opened the door, leaned on the frame, and waited. I messed up, she whispered. No, I said quietly. You calculated. You manipulated. You lied. That's not a mistake. That's character. I didn't love him, she whispered. It just made me feel powerful. And there it was. The raw truth. Power. She didn't want a husband. She wanted control. A mirror. A stage. A man who would shrink so she could look bigger. You should go, I said. She nodded and walked away into the dark like a ghost. I closed the door. Locked it. And for the first time in months, I exhaled. The days after felt lighter. I stopped waiting for the next betrayal. Stopped reading silence like code. I started living. She tried once more. Of course she did. A handwritten letter, 8 pages, sent through the mail. Apologies. Accusations. Compliments. A poem. She wrote, you were too stable. I think I needed drama. I didn't finish reading it. I ripped it in half and threw it away. Because nothing on those pages could glue back what she shattered. A month later she was posting pictures with Chase in Tulum, sunsets and quotes about healing. I muted her everywhere, not because I cared, but because watching her rewrite the crime scene like art made my stomach turn. Meanwhile I rebuilt. Slowly. Carefully. Then I met someone, Hannah. She wasn't flashy. No obsession with status. No fake laughs. Just real. Present. Honest. When I finally told her what happened, she didn't flinch. She just said, I'm glad you walked away. That takes guts. That hit harder than I expected, because no one had said it before. Not even me. Months later, I got a wedding invite in the mail. Brittany and Chase. I laughed, real laughter, because of course she'd spin it. Phoenix story. Healing era. New beginning. The invite went straight into the shredder. I wasn't angry. I wasn't curious. Because I'd already won. Not by humiliating her. Not by exposing her. But by not going back. By choosing peace over chaos. By becoming a man who could look in the mirror and not see shame. Only scars. Scars that proved I healed. Looking back, I realized Brittany and her mother were 2 faces of the same disease. Control wrapped in charm. One tried to replace my family. The other tried to replace me. They failed. And if there's anything I'd tell the next man standing where I once stood, it's this. Don't beg for respect. Don't argue with a lie. And when you see the truth, no matter how ugly, walk. And never look back. Because sometimes walking away is the revenge. A year passed. Funny how time doesn't just heal, it reveals. What I thought was the worst thing that ever happened to me turned out to be the greatest escape I never planned. One morning I made coffee, looked out the window and realized something. I hadn't thought about Brittany in weeks. Not her voice. Not her face. Not the ache she used to leave behind. The pain that once lived in my chest had faded into a scar I barely noticed. Not forgotten. Just healed. I sold the condo and bought a small place with a garden. On weekends, I planted things with my bare hands, tiny reminders that growth is slow, messy, and worth it. Hannah was still in my life, steady and kind, walking beside me at my pace. And for the first time in years, I wasn't chasing or being chased. We weren't building something to post online. We were just living. Some nights I'd lie in bed listening to the quiet hum of the world outside and think about everything that happened. The betrayal. The humiliation. The explosion of a future I once clung to like a lifeline. And I wouldn't feel bitter. I'd feel grateful. Because Brittany didn't destroy me. She revealed me. She showed me the pieces of myself I'd abandoned trying to please someone who never saw me as enough. Heartbreak doesn't automatically make you stronger. Heartbreak gives you a choice. Become bitter, or become honest. I chose honest. And if you're reading this with a broken heart, staring at the pieces of your life, wondering if you'll ever breathe normally again, you will. But only when you stop waiting for an apology. Only when you stop asking, why wasn't I enough? And start asking, why did I stay when she wasn't? You weren't the fool. You were the believer. And next time, you'll believe in yourself. That's not the end of the story.